Vietnamese Duoc in Linguistic Research. The Critical Literature Survey. Siebenhütter 2018. This paper discusses the Vietnamese polyfunctional element được, which can be seen as belonging to a class of its own among the Vietnamese. Mood and modality markers. Of interest in this paper is the possibility that duoc represents one manifestation of a regional phenomenon, as similar elements can be seen in the surrounding Southeast Asian languages such as Lao, Zhuang, and Ph. This phenomenon, a type of split in modal functions from a typological perspective, has already been addressed in several studies. The focus lies on the interplay between sociocultural factors and linguistic functions and the broad array of meanings that duoc can convey. It is argued that the meaning of duoc can only be properly understood with sufficient cultural knowledge as shared by the language community. This means that the correct interpretation of duoc is always context-dependent, probably even more so than other polyfunctional elements. In linguistic research, the analysis of typological data did not provide any new insights. Accordingly, this paper discusses the ongoing struggle in linguistic research to analyze multifunctional terms like duoc. This appraisal concludes that the multifunctional duoc will be a fruitful topic for future sociolinguistic investigations to determine whether including sociocultural data can help to understand this aerial phenomenon. Keywords: mood and modality, polyfunctionality, sociolinguistics. It has been shown that, in Vietnamese, the modal system is much more distinct than the mood system. Even if the two categories are not always clearly separable, there are more forms that can be assigned to the modal system. This indicates that a different approach to the polyfunctional systems is needed. From a regional point of view, great similarity can be asserted between the polyfunctional Vietnamese element duoc and its equivalent elements in other Southeast Asian mainland languages. It can also be shown that the sentence position of the tam marker plays an important role in Vietnamese. In Vietnamese, tense and aspect markers can almost always be found in the preverbal position, while modal markers can also take a postverbal position or occur at different positions. In the periphery, even if Vietnamese tam markers are generally polyfunctional, modal forms are not used temporally and rarely with an aspectual function. As a result, Vietnamese modal markers can be distinguished clearly from tense and aspect markers. It was shown in this appraisal that changing the clausal position of duoc can affect both its semantic and its functional characteristics. The element duoc can also be used with full semantic meaning as a lexical verb with the meaning be okay. Modal forms are usually preverbal and/or in the left-hand periphery, while tense forms are generally found in the preverbal position and aspect forms predominantly in the postverbal position in Vietnamese. The polyfunctional element duoc illustrates this fact extensively. If duoc occurs in a postverbal position, it has an aspectual meaning, whereas in a preverbal position it describes modality. Whether duoc itself conveys more sociocultural functions, i.e., politeness or face-saving, than other elements cannot be determined by analyzing isolated examples. However, it seems that sociocultural knowledge, which can be transported along with the language that is used, plays a much more important role than previously thought. This paper's aim was to emphasize and illustrate the benefits of and the need for including sociolinguistic and ethnographical data into typological research. The limitations of glossing and understanding are demonstrated in several examples. Here, emphasizing again that including sociolinguistic data should be standard procedure, not merely relegated to studies dealing with sociolinguistic topics, especially for languages with an isolating language structure and a culture that is highly characterized by courtesy like Vietnamese. The whole discourse, including the situation in which an utterance is made and its pragmatic functions, needs to be considered. Much more work should be done along the lines of the work reported by Chu, 2005. It seems that there is less ambiguity in the expressions of languages without verbal inflection. Yet, elaborated systems, such as the knowledge that a speaker has about grammatical roles that can be filled by a linguistic element, are of great importance for the correct interpretation of an utterance. If, as argued in this paper, the knowledge of the principles of social order, including knowledge about norms and expectations, that is held by participants in a conversation is an indispensable precondition for understanding the semantic scope of được, a bridge between semantic approaches and sociolinguistic approaches can be drawn. The broad semantic value of được and the omnipresence of the broad range of possibilities for interpretation that được offers can only be fully captured against the background of the culture-specific understanding of Vietnamese politeness behavior. For these reasons, a sociolinguistic approach that considers this can contribute to the discussion on polyfunctional elements like được.